Good morning, everybody. I'm Daniel Sinacero, CEO and founder of Connect Commercial Real Estate News and Connect Media. Last week, we recorded a webinar that talked about COVID-19 and impacting the different property types and how to keep our tenants and visitors and structures safe at the property level. A lot has changed in the industry over the last week, so we thought we would try to keep everybody informed and bring this group back. And we're going to continue to do this because it continues to change week by week. I wanted to introduce our guests and talk a little bit about who we have as our experts. Julianne Goodfellow, Senior Director of Government Affairs from National Multi-Housing Council, obviously going to touch on the apartment side. Michael Odo is the CEO of Metro Services, which provides cleaning services to office buildings in Northern and Southern California. Jeff Herrera is Rising Realty Partners. He's a Senior General Manager and can speak from the office perspective. Drew Geneva is a Chief Asset Services Officer from Madison Marquette, and he will talk from the retail, office, and senior housing perspective. For the retail perspective, also we have Angie Solanke, who is the National Director of Retail Services for Colliers, and for SIOR Global President Mark Duclos, who is also the President and co-founder of Century Commercial. He'll be talking from the industrial perspective, and also from the SIOR perspective. Brian, we also have a newcomer, Brian Nelson, President and founder of NB Private Capital. He's going to share the student housing perspective. And we have Pete Hosford joining us from EBI Consulting and is a certified industrial hygienist who focuses on employee exposure to hazardous substances. Unfortunately, Laura Boyd was not able to join us on this one. So we'll make sure she's on the next one. And she was property manager of property risk for Pinnacle. Thank you guys all for joining us today. Obviously, real-time information. Yesterday, the governor of California ordered 40 million residents to stay at home, to only go out for essential services and goods. And I'm sure there's already some cities that are already doing this in states, and there will probably be some more to follow. What does that mean? I'm based here in California. I went out for my morning walk. I went to the market this morning to grab breakfast goods, and I came back. There is no police out policing. There is no, I didn't have to wait in lines. I didn't have to do anything like that. That's what that means, and it's what happened yesterday and the day before for me and my world and my family. We are definitely all working from home and staying safe. But what does this mean for commercial real estate? So let's jump into it. I mean, obviously, we're going to cover from 2 points: one, California, New York, and then obviously some of the other states and how this is all happening now. So for Drew and Jeff, obviously, you guys are going to come at it from the office side. Mm-hmm. How is that coming, Drew? How is it coming right now with operations? Everybody's working from home. Are the office buildings open? What's the different tack there, Drew, right now?
Okay, so and you can hear me okay.
Yeah.
Great. So it's different with each property and with each property owner. So one case I'll give you is we have a building in Baltimore where we have a single tenant as an occupant. They've reduced their staff by 50% and probably going lower. And we coordinated with that tenant and communicated that back to the owner. So what we've done is we've locked the doors, not because we're worried about a security risk, but just as part of our protocol in this instance, increased our security, increased, again, cleaning, and we put our engineers on a rotating basis. And that's working for that property because of a single tenant nature. In the other buildings, I think the big question that we're seeing and the big unknown is when our office building is going to be asked to lock down or close. And those are the bigger issues. And if that happens, then what are tenants going to be requesting of an owner? Is it rent relief? Is it a renegotiation of terms? Some of these things we saw in 2008, but we're actually experiencing 9/11 and 2008 in one fell swoop with an extra whammy of there's no vaccine for the virus. So there's the hope part of it is a little in the gray area. But we're attacking everything on an individual basis with each property owner and talking through what is the right structure, because it also depends on the solvency of the tenants, their ability to conduct business off-site, if that's what they chose. But like Madison, we are all working from home. We have asked people to work from home. There's only minimal essential personnel that actually operates in our buildings. And we put the property management oversight on a rotating basis.
Jeff, is there any, you want to interject on that? How are you guys handling this?
Yeah, we're doing a very similar approach at Rising Realty Partners. And most of our businesses or most of our buildings have at least one what's considered essential business under this order. So the building is staying open. You know, we have an obligation to those tenants to run the building and to operate it as we normally would. So we're doing that. But basically, like Drew said, putting it, we call it like a holiday schedule where, you know, the building's open, there's people there, security is there, but you need key card access and things like that so we can better control access to the building.
And Michael, from, you know, I know that one quick thing, Jeff, your portfolio is only in California?
California and Denver.
And Denver.
Colorado.
Okay. Anything different between you, Denver and California right now? As far as,
no,
or are you doing that with, it's kind of the same with building access?
It's the same. They don't have the order there in Denver, so it's not quite to this point yet, but they're following a very similar protocol.
Okay. And Drew, would you say that it's the same for you? I know that with PMRG, you have some buildings here in California. And
So what we all need to be aware of is we need to read the executive orders that have come out. So in California, the executive order exempts commercial and retail. So, you know, a work in place or work from home, we need to make sure we know what that is. With New York announcing today and Pennsylvania, we're waiting to get their executive orders to see what we are mandated to do versus like what was said about setting up a holiday schedule. So again, at the end of the day, all of us need to help our tenants be successful because those are the ones that have created the value downstream after the property was delivered. So that's foremost on our mind in helping them, but we've got to make sure we all know what the details are in those orders that come out from the governments or the state authorities.
Thank you. Michael, you service California. You and I had a conversation. You were up in San Francisco talking about when the city was working from home there. And tell us, how are you servicing these buildings? Tell us a little bit about that process and how it's been going for Metro.
The buildings, with a couple of exceptions, are still open. It appears they're running between 10 and 20% occupancy. I have all of my janitors working both day and night, doing detail work, and in some instances doing a bit more disinfecting than we normally would. I think between now and the end of this month, we will have detail cleaned most things and disinfected most things. But if people still come in the buildings, there's still the potential for them to be infected. So as long as people want us there, we're going to remain cleaning. The exception being janitors that are older. If they choose to stay home, they can, and they're being paid for that. And if anyone else, for any reason, decides that they're fearful or want to stay home, we're doing case by case, trying to accommodate all of them. But we're continuing to keep our doors open and keep as many people working as we possibly can.
Do you have anything new as far as any kind of processes or cleaners or machining or anything that other than the first webinar that we talked about, or anything that might have changed in your process on that?
What has changed is a number of chemicals that we have in our arsenal that had not been on the first lists have now been accepted as killing the COVID-19 virus. At least that's what is believed. So what that did was it improved our inventory by 20-fold. So the products that are in the buildings we are now using. We don't have to worry about sourcing Virex or some other things. We've purchased more of the for Texas machines that are the electrostatic. So we're doing a lot more of that work. But the chemical that we had in place is now accepted. So we're pretty pleased about how that has gone.
Great. Let's jump into retail. Angie, and I know Drew will get back into you. Like, the mandatory restrictions, and we keep talking about that, but retail is getting hit across the country. Restaurants, gyms, movie theaters, retail. The business. And Drew mentioned working with your tenants and putting them first. How do you what are you seeing out there, Angie, as far as what's going on in retail? I know we hear it on the news, but tell me what you're seeing out there.
Sure. I mean, a couple things just to kick off. We definitely, the outlook during this time is of uncertainty, and the lack of visibility can be challenging. And therefore, a lot of our landlords are being quite sensitive to the retailers and, asking, let's kind of wait this out for the next 2 weeks before we have a more, a deeper discussion about rent concessions, rent relief. Because the uncertainty is how long will this continue for? And therefore, what we are seeing is, of course, retailers closing definitely because of the safety in not spreading the coronavirus. And if we look at, we track all of the retailers that have closed. The majority have closed in the last several weeks with a timeline showing that they may reopen early part of April, but that is again based on the current situation during this time. But what we're also facing is the challenge as it relates to the restaurants trying to pivot and looking at how to deliver food or create a to-go model. Some of these restaurants haven't been in that situation before. That's not part of their current business plan or business model. So they are pivoting quite quickly in order to, try to keep, call it sales coming in and the business staying relatively open based on the current guidelines dictated by the government, et cetera. So we are seeing some of that. We're also from a perspective of gym memberships and just the fitness centers. I'm sure we're all receiving emails from the various gyms we are connected with for e-series. So there's a virtual online series that they've created for us that since we're working from home, let's still stay connected. Let's still stay, in shape and try to kind of, from a mental capacity, stay in well-being from that point of view. So we're getting a lot of that e-series online. There's one retailer, or I should say fitness group, that has actually stated that, if you can, please continue to pay your monthly subscription. If you are financially challenged, please pay half, or if you cannot at all, we understand. So they're giving options to their customers, and hopefully that loyalty and dedication between the customer and the brand will stay intact.
I got a email. We have a team in New York and a team here in LA and a team in Chicago, and talking about pivoting. They are starting in New York able to deliver alcohol from some of the restaurants where we don't have that, where they're offering to deliver not only bottles of wine but mixed drinks and different beer and different things.
Mm-hmm.
Or so they're trying. Those bars are all trying to with food service, obviously not without it. But we had one of our team members just talked about that on a team call yesterday. So definitely trying to pivot. Never even heard of that. Drew, tell us a little bit about, you're talking about the tenants, and you're talking about,
Right.
and it's true without
Right.
that. And it's right. Not some of the retail isn't, it's not a peanut butter spread across the nation. And so what are you seeing out there as far as that?
So we're seeing much of the same, but one thing we're doing is we're supporting our retailers through digital. So we're offering them the ability to tap into our social media and online platforms to promote their business, because I think that's what's happening. Nobody is going outside and grabbing food. And so we're doing everything we can in that front. We've also created a asset services COVID task force internally in the company, and we are fielding all of these questions that are coming from tenants and owners, as well as looking at all the information that others on this call may have published about their approach, and trying to use that as a way to figure out how do we help these companies. I think we all have to be empathetic. And the other thing we're doing is we're, in terms of, kind of the raw details, we're looking at, does business interruption insurance really cover in light of a pandemic? So we're trying to study that too, to really find ways of what else could we be doing to help our tenants. So it's a bit of new groundbreaking stuff, but it's also some of the basic blocking and tackling, and it's hard. You wish you could do more for everybody. I will say we're trying to do everything we can to help any of the hourly workers, that particularly on our staff, that may be on a rotating basis, that may work from home for a couple of days. We want to make sure people are still getting paid in that regard. But I think it's, I agree with everything that's been said so far, and we just got to figure out how to do more.
Angie, just really quick on, obviously the grocery, with the rush to the markets, grocery anchored properties for tenants, are in a good position right now. Do you want to shed some more light into that, on that aspect of anything?
Yeah, definitely. I think, as we've been hearing also, from other media outlets, the grocery sector definitely is strong. But there are, they're also challenged in certain areas. For example, they've now just recently also adopted a reduced operating hours, so they can not only restock, but also look at how they're, keeping the premises or the grocery stores, call it COVID-19 clean. So they're doing deep cleaning within these stores to keep customers feeling like it's comfortable to come in, it's safe to come in, etc. On the other side, on the supply chain side, I think that's really where there's definitely, I think, plenty of food that is available. I think we just heard from, the president of the National Grocery Association sharing that there's definitely enough stock, there's enough food and product that's available. It's just getting it to the stores is taking a little longer. So if we can all just be really, patient and not create, additional stress or anxiety around it will be important. I do feel that, during this time, people are actually taking the time to be mindful and sensitive how they can actually improve their business going forward. So the one thing that we've done here within the Colliers organization is we've created these town halls where it's an internal call where we can share information, stay connected, talk about what our clients may be doing. And so one of our retail brokers shared with us that, one of her clients, and this is more from a restaurant perspective, is actually looking at, post-COVID-19, there's still going to be this environment where people are going to be sensitive to still going back into reopened stores and restaurants. And so one of her clients is essentially looking at, let's take this time to adapt, and maybe we put in certain improvements that are not costly to help alleviate the psychological concerns post this pandemic.
Let's switch a little bit, Pete. With EBI, your title, which I've never heard before and is probably hugely important now, Certified Industrial Hygienist.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing out there as far as big picture. I mean, what are some of your clients talking about? I know this is, we talked about office in the retail aspect and within the property part. Tell us big picture program management. How are you attacking this?
Well, a certified industrial hygienist is one who looks at occupational health and safety. So the things that may lead a worker to become ill. And we'd typically look at chemical exposures, but we'd also look at biological exposures. Quite frankly, I'm seeing a lot of my clients take on all the due diligence part of preventing their employees from becoming ill. They're instituting a lot of the policies that you folks have spoke of, minimizing people coming into the office space or the manufacturing space or retail space, improving the cleaning, trying to encourage people from working from home where they can, and most importantly, encouraging people who are feeling ill not to come to the workplace.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, no. So let's jump now into apartments, and a big part of apartments and multifamily across the board is student housing. And Brian, thanks for jumping on this call with us. I know you weren't on the first one, and I realized after that first call that we were missing a conversation about student housing because my daughter's now home from college, and they've closed the schools, and I realized all these different things, and then now there's a bunch of things in the news about colleges, even being dorm rooms turned into hospitals. So, with all the schools closing across the U.S., what does this mean for student housing? Give us kind of an overview, and then let's talk about maybe the repurposing part of it.
Yeah, great question. And we're still not clear. There's so much variability in the regions across the country. Some universities were quick to close their doors. Others were really slow to react to any type of change. A lot of folks are talking about, how do we continue to have students finish their coursework and leverage virtual technology and still use technologies where students can pass courses or continue to get study assignments and work with their teachers that way. Other colleges have almost completely shut down. So it's really hard. I'd say right now our student housing portfolio, we have about 50 to 60% occupancy. A lot of the students are still sticking around, and that's just because they have coursework or things that they're going to finish up on, or none of their friends are home yet. So why not be around? And if you're going to play video games in your room or stream Netflix, you may as well do it at your student housing property as opposed to home if they're fearful of travel. So you see a lot of different things. It's really interesting though. The Generation Z, you'll see some of them have that indestructible mentality where you literally have to coach them not to do X, Y, and Z and how to be more careful. And then you have another subset that's a lot more fearful and scared. And so, we're doing a little bit more hand-holding than we're used to at student housing properties, but most of our students are juniors and seniors, so a little bit more senior in that regard. But it's been a really interesting time for us.
And your properties oh, sorry, go ahead.
Excuse me. UC Berkeley sent out today a very comprehensive letter outlining their whole program, who's staying, who's going, what you can do, where you can go for resources and things. They sent it out to all their, faculty, alumni, and students, but it was quite well done, I thought.
We'll see, Michael, we'll touch base after this to try to get that letter for you. Maybe we can post it within the story. The other part is there's talk about the repurposes of student housing for hospitals. Has anybody had that conversation with you, Brian? Is there and what's the buzz there? And then, Julianne, if you've heard of anything, but you want to jump in on that question also, as far as that, as far as student housing, or is that just still they're just kind of in its early stages, and maybe we can touch back next week or two on it?
We're still in early stages on that, and a lot of it is because there's still some occupancy, and frankly, we just don't have a lot of student housing properties near major metro areas, so we're not seeing a huge demand for that quite yet. There's a couple of properties where we've been asked to help in certain regards with testing and things like that in the parking lots. We've been really open to that. I think everybody wants to help where they can, but it hasn't hit us yet too much in terms of capacity for.
Okay. Julianne, did you want to talk about, since we last talked, we talked about apartments, and one of the things we were talking about were, you mentioned community areas that were starting to close down, or there was a thought. Now I understand from some of my friends that live in apartments that most all community areas and apartments are closed down. Is there any, as they're doing that, is there any like concessions or anything the landlords are doing, or is there any kind of programming that you're hearing about, or what are apartments doing different since we last?
Yeah, I mean, Daniel, since we last spoke, and it's only been about 10 days or so, things have shifted so rapidly. Certainly, a lot of the community areas, including gyms, have been closed in properties depending on which state they're in. We are hearing that laundry rooms are often staying open because residents need to be able to do their laundry. So that is something, they may have reduced hours or reduced numbers of people in those laundry rooms, but that seems to be something that is continuing to be open. On the concession side, I think that's maybe too early to have a full conversation on that, because this is just so recent. Right now, the apartment firms overall are really focusing on the health and safety of their residents and staff and prioritizing that over any concessions or any conversations that far. We also, as NMHC, looking at it, we're looking at making sure that bigger picture that renters can afford to pay their rent if they lose their jobs. So concessions only a small portion of someone's rent, and if they have lost their job, how can we make sure that they can still pay their rent, and that property owners and managers can continue to pay as well, pay for their mortgages, et cetera. So NMHC has been doing a lot of federal advocacy on this, looking at direct assistance to both renters and to property owners and operators, because I think that's going to be the bigger issue than the concessions for the common spaces. Did I lose you, Daniel?
Oh, sorry about that. I was on mute. A lot of the conversation was the owners. There's been a lot of different conversations on what will happen as some of this non-eviction time and people not paying rent. What will happen with some of the owners, and that's been a lot of moving conversations. But it's just the most important time to be, is the humanity part of it. And
absolutely, we're certainly encouraging our apartment firms to look at helping residents, first of all, stay with their self-quarantine efforts and social distancing, and also looking at rent payment flexibility and really working with renters given the circumstances right now. I think the humanity part is so important. As we all know, we're all in this together, so we have to really work together on that.
Drew, do you want to talk anything about senior housing? Do you want to mention anything that has maybe changed since the last time we talked about senior housing? I know you gave us a lot of insight into, wristbands and some of those other really good things, but we've been hearing some letters that they're just really completely shut down to outside world in some aspects.
Yeah, they really are. And so it's how do you deploy virtual in this instance? And we're looking at that. We don't have a real solution right now, but they are essentially shut down, and that's the tragedy of it. We're all seeing pictures of the kids outside the window waving to their grandparents or whomever, but we are looking at ways to improve a virtual experience. So educating people as we can on how to FaceTime, how to create virtual music happy hours, things like that, but we don't have a full answer at the moment. So I can't offer you anything clear on that. I wish I could, but it's very similar to almost a complete lockdown and protection at this point.
Yeah, one of the Connect staff showed me a letter from exactly from her mother's home, and that she can't go see her, and that they're only delivering food, and it's no access whatsoever into this gated community. So it was very interesting and quite sad. Let's talk industrial. Mark, on the industrial side, we talked about supply chain. Tell us a little bit about domestically what's going on, and then the good news about China starting to reopen and order from the U.S. And tell us a little bit about the industrial market domestically, and then what's going on as far as supply chain.
Yeah, well, certainly, and the comment was made earlier, which I thought was well said, is that the it certainly appears that the supply chain is starting to balance out a little bit. We have a number of contacts, especially in the food industry, as well as a few outside. But the general feeling is that the supply chain has started to balance a little bit. That said, I can tell you specifically, I know in our world, which is the Northeast, aerospace companies are still very much concerned about supply chain. They're still concerned about getting product out the door. And of course, they're also very concerned about their end users. And things like Boeing and those kind of stories certainly don't help. So we see, a nice recovery from that standpoint. I think that Citrus in Connecticut just announced that they are also closing all non-essential businesses. And, for what they call the few weeks. It's going to be interesting to see what everybody thinks is essential and non-essential. So to one of the earlier comments as well is, we have to understand some of these orders and how they are affecting these companies. I know we're seeing most clients still open. Most of the manufacturers and service industries are still open. They're certainly operating in a much more reduced staff, but they're keeping things going. So we need to kind of understand what these executive orders are. And certainly we're also trying to understand, that relationship between the landlord and the tenant, and having tenants who practice best practices, but then you also have the challenge of overreaching landlords and landlords that might be trying to flex muscles where they actually don't have a legal right to. That might make a lot of sense to, but they don't have the legal right to. So in the industrial world's a little different because we don't have most of the time common areas, right? Like an office building does, where these are really operations that are standalone or multi-tenant without common areas. So we're a little bit different, but I would say overall industrial, I could tell you the small to medium-sized businesses, very challenged. We're seeing a lot of transactions on the brokerage side being put on hold. They're either being put on hold, being terminated, or at best case scenario, we're starting to see them be extended on the user side because they're concerned about the future. We had a brief conversation with folks from Europe yesterday morning, and they're starting, this was a UK and Ireland group, and they're starting to feel that pinch as well. So it's we got a lot of waters to navigate coming up in the next few weeks.
Mark, thanks for that update on industrial. We're all here plugged in. All of us are pretty much working from home. It's the new rapid world changing. And I know that when we first started to log in from home and started to get on with our Zoom, and as our team is all over the country, we started, we had login problems, we've had cell phone problems, video problems, all these different things. With this world, of virtually rapidly changing, Pete, can you what do you think can be a proactive plan for us to put in place right now and help going forward? What do you think? I know that is part of the world that you play in.
Well, the most important thing is communications. Similar to this, that businesses and business leaders effectively communicate to their employees, to other stakeholders, exactly where they are, what they're doing, what the plan is moving forward, and how all this is affecting the business and how they plan to recover as such or move forward. That's primarily the most important thing. You want to be able to emphasize the steps that the various organizations are taking to reduce the risk, to minimize exposures, and see how things come out.
Well, that's great. That's Julianne, you have a huge organization that that you advocated for many years, and for an apartment industry. Can you just tell me a little bit, how are you communicating with your members?
We've been in really constant contact with our membership, and I'd say that we're even engaging with some who aren't normally as engaged with NMHC, and even with folks who are not our members. We have a listserv which is incredibly active and has been very informative to us about what apartment firms are dealing with for anyone who's interested, it's nmhc.org/COVID-19, and you can sign up there regardless of whether or not you're a member. And that's been a way that apartment firms can communicate on a variety of issues. We're seeing conversations about amenity spaces, about the new stay-in-place orders, state laws as they're popping up. Really, you name it, those conversations are coming up. What different firms are doing and best practices and what they're finding is working. One company was talking about how having someone constantly cleaning off a high-touch space, just being visible, constantly doing that, was reassuring the residents that they were taking that very seriously. So we're really hearing a lot of these best practices through that. We're also offering guidance through our website as well, which we're updating as things move forward. Initially, I mentioned in the last conversation about what we had there. Since then, we've updated it with more information on self-quarantining, on rent payment flexibility, and on other things along those lines, so that as things continue to evolve, as they are incredibly rapidly, we're making sure that apartment firms know what's going on. And we're also, when you touched on student housing earlier, we're really working closely with student housing firms who have very different, some of the concerns are similar, but some are very different, specifically in light of the fact that a lot of students have left their universities and that the lease-up period is very strict, and that they're concerned about the next year lease-up already. So really working on all different facets. And of course, since we do a lot of federal advocacy, we're working with members of Congress and administration to make sure that we're supporting the industry in any way we can.
That's great. You know, I also got an email and looked at National NAOP, our National Associated of Industrial and Office Properties. They actually put out a pretty comprehensive website also. I think both you guys have done a fantastic job. I would definitely take a look at both those sites. There's a lot of real fact, news, and information there. You know, for us at Connect, you know, we had already been kind of a work from home. We had an office in New York and an office in LA, but a lot of our team works across the nation at home. We've now gone on to video conferencing, but we're also, you know, this afternoon, to stay in contact and try to break it up a little, we're also going to have a team happy hour. We're all, you know, going to grab a beer or a glass of wine, and at 5 o'clock, all jump on the video conferencing and just talk about something other than COVID and work. So hopefully you guys can all do that.
So Daniel, you're going to have a virtual happy hour, huh?
Yep. We're going to have a virtual happy hour with the Connect team. And so I would recommend, you know, reach out to your family and friends, stay connected. I know that it's kind of that stay in and stay safe, but there's no reason why you can't communicate out there. Hey, I wanted to thank this group of people for jumping on. I know you guys are all super busy in the trenches handling and dealing with this, especially even from the task force to the messaging to the association to, you know, working, you know, with in all the buildings and with the tenants and all that stuff. So thank you for taking this time. For everybody listening, we will continue to do this every couple of weeks. As you can tell, we have much more information than the last time, and we'll continue to give this information, and the list continues to grow, and we have well over 10,000 listeners every time. So have a good weekend. Thanks, everybody.